What up, my people? ¿Qué pasa, mi gente? Welcome. Bienvenido to another episode, otro episodio de Hoy en Día TV. I am your host, Yessie Rodriguez, on this beautiful, lovely, terrific Thursday. Wow. Guess what? We're almost at the end of March. I feel like we went boop like that, and voila, here we are. And I'm going to introduce my amazing co-host, Cece and Nadine. Welcome to the stage, ladies. How's it going?
Hello. How are you?
Happy Thursday.
I love
Almost there. You're right.
I love how we were in sync with that.
I know. I didn't get the memo. Hello.
Hey, great minds think alike, right? Great minds think alike. So how have you all been since the last time we talked and saw each other on this lovely Hoy en Día stage?
Oh, I've been great. I've been wonderful. I'm just enjoying this lovely weather we're having here in Georgia. I mean, I've been doing a couple book signings, so I'm feeling fantastic.
Beautiful.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. I'm doing good too. You know, there's challenges every day, but it's all about perspective, right? And so just keeping a positive mindset on everything that's happening around us, right? And really seeing it as a growth opportunity, right? And so though the challenges may come, and they've been coming for you, girl, all week, okay? But I'm keeping in the right frame of mind. And so I too must say that it is a great week, okay? It's a great week. It's always going to be a great week, no matter if I'm high or if I'm low. It's always going to be a great week. Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
And I love that. I love that you shifted that because, like you said, life has been lifing, but it's about what you think up here. You're manifesting that positivity. Even when sometimes the flesh tells you, you should feel some type of way, you're like, nope, stay right there. Because my mentality, my mindset is going to say it is a good day. It's a good day in the neighborhood, like Mr. Rogers say, right?
Yes.
Good day in the neighborhood. Yes. So it's mind over matter. And so I'm glad you shared that too, because that's food for thought that I want to share with the audience and listeners. Just as a reminder, when that life gets life in, speak positivity over yourself. Similar to what Cece just shared. She's like, no, it's a good day. It's a beautiful day because it is. It's all about how you think and how you see it. So yes, amazing. On my end, similar. Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I said you're right on. You're right on.
On my end, beautiful week as well since the last time we communicated. So many amazing things happen, and I'm part of a fashion show committee. So heads up to you all models and designers. There's a fashion show coming to Raleigh very soon. I'm not going to give too many details because I haven't been given the green light just yet, but I will say it's a fashion show. That's all I've been saying. And there might be a model casting soon. So models, if you're interested, male, female, hit me up. And I will get you in contact with the right people. Also, this past Saturday, I had the opportunity to judge at a Vogue model competition with Catherine Neal. Shout out to Catherine Neal for putting that together. Amazing talent, models. They did great. And so it was really a good networking opportunity, just being able to meet so many wonderful, talented individuals, teenagers, kids, adults, the whole shebang. It was definitely nice. And so I'll be posting pictures soon. You know, I'm busy, so I'm trying to keep up with media, but it's tough over here. But nevertheless, you all will be seeing those pictures very, very soon. And so we actually have a very special guest today that's going to talk about a topic that really impacts many families. And Cece and I are wearing the colors that represent the true, because I looked it up and I was like, what is a color that represents autism? And it's blue. I didn't know that. And so, hey. And so with that in mind, I just wanted to open the door to my co-hosts just to see what thoughts they have. Have you ever encountered or experienced someone who may have dealt with autism or have a child or sibling or a loved one that has autism?
So I do substitute teaching sometimes in my kids' school. So I see kiddos all the time. Also, my son, my oldest, he's on the spectrum. So he was diagnosed with Asperger's. And when we found out, I didn't even know what Asperger's was, right? But, when a doc gives you a diagnosis, you're like, oh, no, my baby, and I'm like, I don't even know what it is, right? But I'm all, emotional. And come to find out, his doctor was actually, or is, she has Asperger's. Because so when I was so emotional with all my, stuff that, parents do, women do, she was just kind of looking at me with this straight face, kind of like, and I'm just like, what's wrong with this lady? Like, she should be coming to, you have these, these are the roles that we play, doctor, patient, the patient mom is distraught, right? Not the patient in this case, but, and she was just kind of just weird. And she's a psychiatrist. And she, so she's thriving. She has a husband, she has children, everything. And then as we begin to learn more about Asperger's and things of that nature, we had to learn how to parent differently, because discipline for him will look different for our other children. And also, right, just kind of knowing how his mind works, right? That took a lot of getting used to and things of that nature. And once we learned that, it all clicked. It was like, oh, this why this isn't working. This why he's not getting, because it doesn't make sense until it makes sense. And then knowing about all the great people, that has, contributed to American culture and also universal cultures, because there's so many different people that we didn't even know that are inventors and scientists and doctors and all of these things, very prestigious individuals. And they too had Asperger's. And so he's very high functioning, can pretty much live a normal life. But what I learned, like, it doesn't make sense to them until it makes sense to them, if that makes sense. That was a lot of making sense, y'all. Okay. But and now knowing that it's now helped us to parent, steer him. When we did a career assessment, just trying to figure out what he wanted to be when he grew up, he was more kind of just he's not very like social. He socializes, but if he doesn't have to, he won't. And it's okay for him. And that's okay. For us, he was like, no, you need to make friends and do this and this, but that's not how it goes. And so now, since we've learned it, we've read about it, we see there's other people out there functioning and doing different things. It's made us better parents, and also just to be more aware and sensitive to others who may have children on the spectrum and things of that nature.
Wow. Yeah. And I'm so glad you shared that, especially because, like you said, people can live a normal life. We all are humans with different things that we're dealing with, right? And so just because an individual has autism doesn't mean that they can't live a normal life. And so I'm curious, help me understand, what exactly is Asperger's? Is it more from a social perspective, or what does it all entail when a person is diagnosed with Asperger's?
So they're very high functioning. They're very kind of like analytical when it comes to different things. Like, he's really good, like techie wise, putting together puzzles. He sees things through a different lens. Of course, most children that are autistic does. I personally feel, and I'm going out here, on a limb, but I personally feel that people with autism, whatever spectrum, whatever level they are on the spectrum, I feel that sometimes we say normal, but is anything really normal? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're all different. We're all unique, right? So if we're all unique with our own thumbprint of DNA, that doesn't make anything necessarily normal. It's all very different to every person. So seeing these individuals, watching them, I truly feel that they are on such a higher executive level of functioning that we, as what we say normal people, we say, oh no, there's something wrong with this. But it's just because we don't understand. It takes their frame of thinking. It's beyond. I say it's outside of time, in a sense, if that makes sense. I'm really trying to explain it. So with my son, he with Asperger's, right? So they function on a higher level. He's more, like I said, analytical, more kind of technical with those types of things. I think it was Beethoven. Don't get me to lying, but I believe it was Beethoven. He had Asperger's. I believe Einstein too was on the spectrum as well. So all these, these people, like in our history that you read about, most of these people were, geniuses, right? They were geniuses. That type of thing. And that's what we see, happening with our eldest. He is now in the Air Force, which is pretty amazing. And the ASVAB test that you have to take to get in, they thought that he cheated because he scored off the charts. And so they brought him back in for testing again, and he scored even higher. So it's pretty amazing. And it's just how his mind functions. It's very I love talking to him. He never really has, like, I would say like a bad day in the sense that we would think it's a bad day. He would get made fun of sometimes in middle school and stuff like that, but it didn't bother him. He would laugh. It really didn't bother him. And I told him, I say, son, this is a superpower. This is really a strength because so many people are bothered by how people look at them and what people say to him. And he's like, it doesn't matter. The thing that was kind of hard for us as parents watching it, people that he thought were his friends, they really weren't his friends because they would make fun of him, right? And they really weren't his friends. But his outlook on life and how he dealt with them, he treated them with kindness and humility and that kind of stuff, where it really shifted their thinking and was like, hey, this dude is pretty cool. It's so interesting. It's interesting. But I'm thankful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a really touching story. And thank you for sharing that, Cece. Yes, I want people to understand that just because you know somebody, or even if you have a child or loved one that's been diagnosed with autism, that means that they're gifted and talented. That's impressive. They can do things that, like Cece said, normal people can't do. So yes, thank you so much for sharing that story, Cece. How about you, Nadine?
Yes, for me, I'm the opposite. I had a sister who had it, but the only difference is she couldn't walk or she couldn't talk, and unfortunately, she passed last year. And I'm just so grateful that my eldest sister in Jamaica, she took great care of her. She was very, healthy, and it was just her time. But the only difference is she couldn't do anything else. So that was just unfortunate. But I mean, we loved her and we cared for her. So I'm just grateful and thankful for my sister Janice who took care of her.
Shout out to Janice for being a great caregiver. Being a caregiver is not an easy task, and I salute all of those caregivers that give their heart and their soul and all they have just to take care of that loved one, because it is not easy. So shout out to you all for taking on that and helping that life, that individual that really depends on you. That is very, very impressive. And so with that in mind, I wanted to share some statistics that I found. So I visited different sites. So we have autismsociety.org. We have nationalautismassociation.org, as well as autismspeaks.org. So those are different sites for those who need more information. But some facts that I found here with regards to data, because I love data and numbers speak to me, right? As of 2024, the prevalence of autism spectrum disorder, ASD, has shown notable trends. So children, approximately 1 in 36 children in the US have been identified with ASD, which is an increase from the previous rate of 1 in 44. That's interesting. Adults, an estimated 1 in 45 adults in the US have autism. Gender disparity, ASD is nearly 4 times more common among boys than among girls. Racial and ethnic groups. Autism prevalence varies among different racial and ethnic groups in the US. So 2.4% white children, 2.9% Black children, 3.2% Hispanic children, 3.3% Asian or Pacific Islander children. Now, diagnosis by age. So while the autism can reliably diagnose, it gets diagnosed around age 2, the average age of a diagnosis in the US has been around 5 years. And from a global perspective, 1 in 100 children have been diagnosed with autism. And this is data as of 2024. Now, just to keep in mind, when we hear the word spectrum, because I was recently introduced with the word spectrum as of last year when we had an actual guest who was diagnosed at an early age with autism, and he shared his story about how he can live day to day. And he was actually given the key to the city because of so much powerful motivational work that he was doing for his city where he lived at. And so with that in mind, the term spectrum in autism spectrum, ASD, refers to the wide range of characteristics, strengths, and challenges that individuals with autism can experience. Now, autism affects people differently with varying degrees of severities in areas such as social interaction, behavioral patterns, and sensory sensitivities. Now, because autism presents in so many different ways, the word spectrum is used to reflect the diversity of experiences rather than just one size fits all, right? So some people may need significant support while others, hey, they can depend on their own. So it just really varies. Autism spectrum in itself is a broad diagnosis that includes various presentations and severities. And so there's different levels. There's a level 1, autism, high functioning autism, previously called Asperger's syndrome, similar to what Cece just shared with us, that's now apparently called a level 1 autism. Good to know. I just found that out right now. So some of the characteristics here: mild challenges with social interaction, strong verbal skills, but many struggle with social cues, rigid routines and intense special interest, independent in daily life, but may need support in social settings. Level 2, moderate autism. Characteristics include more noticeable social and communication difficulties, repetitive behaviors that interfere with daily life, requires moderate support for learning, their daily tasks, and even social interactions, and also sensory sensitivities that can be more intense. Level 3, severe autism. And those characteristics are significant communication and behavioral challenges, maybe nonverbal, or have very limited speech, strong need for routines and difficulty adapting to changes, require substantial support in a daily life, may have intellectual disabilities or co-occurring conditions. And so other terms that are still used with regards to autism: PDA, pathological demand avoidance, is a subtype where individuals strongly resist demands or expectations due to extreme anxiety. Also, regressive autism, when a child develops typically, but then loses speech and social skills. Usually that ranges between 1.5 to 3 years of age. Also, nonverbal autism. Some individuals with ASD do not develop spoken language and may use other forms of communication, such as sign language and assistive devices. So I've said a lot. Any
Yeah,
feedback that you all want to share?
I love that you did the levels, because Asperger was not a part of the spectrum. It was his own distinguished kind of, distinct, symptom. And so they put it onto the spectrum, right? And he, level 1 with my kid, you're saying what were some of the differences? And so my kiddo, he didn't have a lot of the things that you listed. He did have the social. I mentioned that. So that was one of the differences that he had. He has the social. He didn't know the appropriate, like to read those cues from people. You know what I'm saying? We have like a lot of nonverbals. He really couldn't read that. So we had to have things in place for him at school to say, hey, my kid is really not disrespectful. He's just very direct. So like, say for instance, like he thinks he whispers sometimes and he doesn't. So like, this is like, so like out there, but these are kids, right? Like if somebody had some BO, right? Body odor, he'd be like, man, that person stinks. But he'd be like whispering it, but it was out loud, So he would tell you straight on. And so much so, right? So much so our German neighbor, with my infant at the time, he was little, and so my oldest, she said, do you think this is going to be a good gift for the little guy? And I said, yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be fine, which it was really going to be fine. So she goes, well, let me go and ask Jay. And so she went and he asked him, and he goes, why would you get my brother? It was like a Paw Patrol. And it was like, I think Sky was the dog on there. And I have all boys. So he goes, this is for girls. Like, why would you get my brother that? Like he just told her like straight up, he was like, he doesn't need it. And then one time I made a dinner and I thought it was, I worked hard. And he goes, this is awful. Why did you cook that? And like, he's very straight. He doesn't realize that it hurts your feelings, right? But he's going to tell you straight. So from then on, he was known in the neighborhood. Like, if I want the truth, let me go and ask Jay. And they would. And I'd be like, be ready for it though, because it's going to be no sugar. It's going to be straight, no chaser. Okay. So just prepare yourself.
No sugarcoat in anything with Jay.
No sugarcoat there.
I will say this. I love the honesty though. Like it sounds like if you want the honest answer, go ask. Yeah, because you're going to get an honest answer from Jay.
You're going to get it.
That is so
that's a beautiful thing, actually, because nowadays people are pathological liars. So hey, that's a good gift to have right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. And so, we had definitely let, the adults know, in school and stuff, because, they could have taken that as him being disrespectful and, he could have gotten a lot of trouble. But since they knew, it was just like, yeah, just get ready for it. So And it sounds like, Nadine, for your sister, she was on the level 3, because your other sister who was taking care of your sister with autism, she was like hands-on, like she had to have in-home care and like hands-on 24/7. So
Exactly. To take her to the doctor and, everything else she needs.
Wow. And so, yeah, I mean, as we can see, based on the data, autism affects different families all the time, right? And so, with that in mind, we're going to pivot over to our special guest who's been patiently waiting behind stage. And we're really excited to have her on. And so, this special guest, known as Nurse Fee, is a devoted nurse, a fierce advocate, and above all, a loving mother. She navigates the delicate balance of motherhood and demanding nursing career with unwavering strength and grace. She's a proud mother of 2 remarkable children, Alayah, who's 19, and Amarion, 22. And so she says that he insists that he's forever 19. I love it. Yes. With 6 years of experience in nursing, Felicia has built an impressive career specializing in one-on-one home health care. And her background spans between geriatric care, triage, primary care, and urgent care, equipping her with a comprehensive understanding of a patient's needs. But for this individual, Felicia Johnson, yes, I know I already said her name. I was trying to wait, but I got so excited. So pardon me. But for Felicia, nursing is more than just a profession. It is her calling. Compassionate and resilient, she approaches every patient with a caregiver's heart, and she advocates that determination. She ensures that they receive not just medical care, but feel that they have that dignity and respect. She always makes sure that she provides that for her patients. That's beautiful. That same advocacy extends to her role as a mother, now particularly as a mother of a child with autism. Felicia has navigated the challenges and triumphs of raising Amarion with fierce determination, always striving to ensure that she has the support and the opportunities that he deserves. She often carries the weight of his struggles on her shoulders, wishing that she could ease his burden, right? Help him out. How can I help my child out? Yet, through every challenge, she remains steadfast, knowing that every obstacle overcome is a step towards a brighter future. Balancing the needs of both her children has been one of her greatest challenges, making sure that Alayah and Amarion each feel equally seen and heard and loved. Despite the hardships, Felicia embraces motherhood and with an unbreakable spirit, always putting her children first. Now, her story is definitely one of strength, sacrifice, and boundless love. Whether as a nurse, a mother, or a caregiver, she always continues to inspire those around her. And I know she will inspire us today because she has that dedication, love, and heart. So welcome to the stage. Welcome to Hoy en Día TV, Felicia Johnson.
Hi, thank you.
Hello. Welcome.
Yes, what an impressive bio. And just reading it, like I got really emotional because I know just by hearing what you shared with us before we got on, how you're going no sleep because you're pushing and just doing so much. Like, share with us, who is Felicia other than what I shared with the bio? Who would you say you are? And give us a little bit of what your day-to-day is.
I would have to say that I am a very compassionate person. I'm resilient. Some days I don't know how I make it other than the strength of the Lord. Like I said, today, haven't had any sleep since yesterday, and that might have only been about 3 hours. But day to day, it's hard to navigate life as being a mom first and then a nurse professionally because, sometimes I have to pick and choose and my children will always come first. But then there's, financially, I have to work. So I was telling some of our TikTok family yesterday, I was like, well, Marion's not feeling well. He's been dizzy since last Thursday and he has fluid in both of his ears. And it's hard. He keeps asking me why this is happening. And so one of the ways that he stems is he talks to himself and he looks at his hands. And so the other night, because he was so dizzy, and I know that sometimes when he stems, he likes to walk around in circles. And so to keep him from walking around in circles, he walks around our island at 1:00 in the morning eating his snacks. And so to keep him from doing that, I put him in the bed with me. And so he would go to sleep for about 30 minutes and he'll wake up and he'll just look at his hand. Now, Amarion does not sleep at all. He just stays up all night long. And so while he was laying there, he was talking to himself and he was like, Lord, why is this happening to me? I'm sorry.
No, yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, that's wow.
And so, I find pride and joy that one, he knows who the Lord is and he knows who to go to and who to talk to. But I just can imagine that at night when he doesn't sleep, his mind is constantly wandering and constantly going and doesn't shut down. He literally stays up all night long. And one of his favorite sayings, when I ask him if he went to sleep last night or what time he went to sleep, he tells me it doesn't matter. He is a very direct person also. And he speaks his mind. But yeah, it's a struggle, but every day is worth it. Like she said, when you first find out about it, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why. When I was working at Opticare, and I have to say this too. So Amarion has autism. He also has developmental delays. He was born premature, so was deemed chronically ill at a young age. And I just didn't understand why me. And so one day I went to lunch and I was working at Opticare with Yesenia, and I was at this restaurant and the song came on, "This battle is not yours, it's the Lord's." And so within those words, he let me know as I was saying, why me? Because it had been a really rough week. I had missed so many days from work and my job was being threatened. And he let me know that I was chosen for this journey. And from that point on, I understood why me. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, ooh, girl. I'm trying to hold back my tears right now.
I'm trying to also. But he's a joy. This week he hasn't been himself, and I can't stand it. Because I'm used to him running through the house. He loves to run. I don't know why, but he'll just sprint through the house to go wherever he needs to go. And I'm used to him waking me up at 1:00 in the morning because he just has this rule of thumb. I eat my snacks at 1:00, and so he gets up every night at 1:00, and I'm his croc squeak. Squeaking this week. So the nights that I am home, like I really do miss him being himself, and I can't wait for him to get over this hurdle because it's just not him. So this week has been a little tough.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna speak positivity over him. He's gonna feel amazing very soon.
Amen.
Before you know it, he is going to feel himself. He's going to be better, and he's going to be back to normal before you know it. I'm going to put that in the atmosphere. God has him. God is touching him right now and healing him from whatever it is that he is dealing with. Only God knows, right?
Right.
And so, with that in mind, you being a parent and going back to 2008 when you and I worked together, and then finding out the diagnosis and your child dealing with all of this. At that point, it sounds like you felt lost, confused. Why me? How did you push forward? What resources did you look for, or what was your road at that point to get to where we are today?
So it took me to accept it, to advocate for to advocate for him and to advocate for myself and to do my own research, even after speaking with the doctors, because I needed a better understanding of what was going on and how to take care of him, which is one of the main reasons that I became a nurse, because I didn't understand a lot of the verbiage and the language that was coming from the doctors. I would say a lot of prayer got me to this point. We have a really strong village with my family. Like they can be my strength when I'm down. Because this week I've really been weak. Whenever there's something going on with my children, it's like a slope going downhill. And so I just have a lot of prayer. Having a mom that prays over me, that prays over her grandchildren, and just the love and joy that's surrounded within our family. Like I said, he's a joy to be around. I just can't. It's hard for me to express it without getting emotional. It was really tough in the beginning because, so when we first took him to be evaluated, they said he did not have autism. But they did tell me that he would never use the right side of his body and that his trunk was really large. And so they told me to never expect him to walk. But my baby is walking today. He started walking at 22 years. I'm sorry, at 24 months. Now, before, he never crawled. Um, he would get around on his head like this. And that's when they let me know he would never walk. And that was a bit hard to accept. But like I said, at 24 months, he stood up and he took off walking. There was a point where we were not sure if he would be able to speak. But he said his first words 3 days after my father passed. And he's been talking nonstop ever since. 3 days after my dad passed, he called out for him and he said, Papa. And before my dad passed, he would always try to get him to call his name and he would never say it. But after Papa was gone, he started calling him. It was, like I said, it was really tough because with him having the autoimmune deficiency disease, he stayed sick a lot, which is why I would miss so many days out of work. He was born premature. My body rejected him. And so he's had quite a few surgeries on his eyes, on his ears. He did not eat until he probably was about 10 or 11. He would just taste a little foods here and there. He had a feeding tube from age 5 up to about 10 or 11. And that was the most challenging, having a child that wouldn't eat. And he was already really small. At one point, he was so tiny that you could see his ribs sticking out of his body. And it was a struggle to get him to eat. And I just kept praying, Lord, give my son the desire to eat. And eventually he started. And now he made sure that he eats 3 meals a day. If he gets breakfast, he was like, okay, I've had breakfast. Now, when am I going to get my lunch and my dinner? So before he can finish one meal, he's asking about the next meal. And so it's just a blessing to be where we are today. When I look back and wonder how I got over, it was just the strength of the Lord that has us where we are today.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I know that was tough, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. I need a moment. So Cece and Nadine, if y'all have any questions for Felicia, please do so.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was when
happy
to chime in. So you became a nurse because everything that was happening with your son. Did you have any aspirations to go into another career field? Before all of that, like what were your hopes and dreams and all that stuff before you found out? Were you in a different career field, or wanting to even desire to pursue something different besides nursing?
So in the 10th or 11th grade, I started off with cosmetology. I was doing hair when I graduated. So I take those classes during high school. And once I graduated, I continued on, graduated from Edgecombe Community College, and I got my license. And I did hair for quite some time. And then when I became pregnant with him, I went on bed rest for such a long time, and I had all these big words coming at me, and I didn't know what was going on. I was on bed rest from 2 months up until I had him. And so that's when I started having the desire to be a nurse. However, because he stayed so sick and life was so overwhelming, I had to put that to the side. And I was working at various places. And so, I'm a strong believer, when it's your fate, and if you're not doing what you're supposed to do to get where God wants you to be, he's going to move you from where you are to put you where you need to be. And that's what he did for me. So in 2014, after I stopped working where Yesenia and I met each other, that's when I went into trying to pursue my nursing career.
That's amazing.
Fantastic.
Yes, I was gonna say God placed you as a nurse for a reason, so that you could, navigate and take care of your child. Because not saying that if you had another career you wouldn't have been able to do it, but just like you were asking, what why is this happening to me?
Right.
God knows why.
Yes.
And let me ask you this, because we on this show, we keep it real, and we want to go when you want to ask the hard questions, because there may be somebody out there right now right, who's pregnant, and maybe they went for that ultrasound, and maybe the docs have seen something or whatever the case, right? So when you found out the news and the baby was born premature, like, what was your mindset at the time, other than like, this is overwhelming, I don't really know what this is, but like, you know, did you have thoughts like, do I keep the child? Do I get the child up for adoption? Like, what was your mindset at the time? What were you kind of thinking?
So I didn't know beforehand, but like I said, I was on bed rest, and because my body was rejecting him, I had preeclampsia, and so I didn't really start getting scared until 3 days before I had him, which was Christmas Eve. And they called me and they were like, Miss Johnson, we need for you to get to the hospital right now. I had did a 24-hour urine specimen, and because of the amount of protein I had in my urine, I could either die, go in a coma, or both of us could have passed. And so that's when I started to get scared, because, you know, I've been carrying him for 36 weeks, and now you're telling me it's a possibility that I can lose my life, I can go in a coma, or my child may lose his life. And so that was very scary. And it was also scary that from the beginning, I just knew I was going to have a C-section because of a diagnosis that I had, that I couldn't have a natural childbirth. So that was scary also, because I had it in my head, okay, this is what's going to happen. I'm have surgery and deliver him. And so after he was born, he was born premature at 3 pounds and 17 inches. He was so tiny that I could just hold him in my hand. That's how small he was. And so we didn't really find out anything until about 6 months. And that's when they were talking about how large his trunk was, how he wasn't using his arms and his legs that much, how he couldn't hold himself up. Like, we had to be his support. And so as he got a little older, like I said, they told us he would never walk. He couldn't use the right side of his body, because when he would try to get around, he would use his head and he would only use the left, and he kind of supported the right and wouldn't use it. Um, I had faith in God, but I'm human. And, that was very hard. I've carried him for so long, and I had expectations, from looking at other parents and other kids, that I wanted for myself. My dream was to always become a mom, and I wanted a boy and a girl. And I got my boy and girl. To answer your question, not related to Amarion, but to my daughter, I have a daughter. And when I was pregnant with her, I think I was about 7 months. For some reason, they had me further along than I actually was. And so they told me that she had Down syndromes. So they sent me to a specialist, where I was supposed to have a test done. And they told me the risk of having the test. And again, I became fearful because the needle was really long, and they told me everything that I had to do. And I finally said, you know what? God blessed me with her, because she's a miracle baby, because she was not planned. I was on birth control, and here she is. It was maybe, I found out I was pregnant with her about 4 months after I lost my dad. And I was going through a really tough time in life, because here was this man was always in my life, and he was no longer there. And although I had Amarion, I didn't feel like I could go on without my father. And so I felt like, God blessed me with my baby to help me fill the void of losing my dad. And so I told him, I said, I don't care what the sex is. If the baby has Down syndrome, I still want my child. And so I found out about a week later, after I refused to have the test, and I let them know that I wanted to keep her. I wouldn't say that they were encouraging me not to have her, but those that knew me and knew what I was going through with Amarion was like, okay, you have him. He has these needs. Can you handle having another child that may have some type of special needs? And I said, well, God is not going to put more on me than I can handle. And I've been blessed with this child. And whatever it is, I want it. And so I found out like a week later that it was a girl, and I was happy with my choice. Well, my baby came out perfectly healthy. And I'm so glad that I didn't, go with what was suggested. I'm glad I killed her. because getting back to me losing my dad, I was very emotional when I got ready to have her. And, I was crying out for my dad, but it was in that moment that I saw him, and was just because they had to put me under because I was crying so much. But I saw him when I was under, and he told me he was okay. And I haven't suffered with the depression that I had prior to having her since then. Sure, I cry, but it's not as bad as it used to be.
You
You
got
know,
that
'cause I miss,
reassurance.
but it's not as overwhelming as it was when I first lost him. Like I felt like I can go on. Like I felt like he sent her here for me. And she's just as nurturing as I am when it comes to her brother.
Wow.
That is beautiful. Ooh, wait.
Thank
Wow.
you.
Nadine,
You,
were you
you have me here trying to hold back tears. Oh my God, Miss Felicia. So I want to ask you, what advice would you give to someone, that and the understanding of, someone that caring for another person with autism? What advice would you give to them?
The first thing I would say is to give yourself some grace. There's a lot of times in the beginning that I blamed myself. It took me one to understand that I was chosen for this journey and that I can do this as long as I kept my faith and depended on God. So give yourself some grace. Self-care. It's a lot of times that, I get overwhelmed in the past and I wouldn't, take time for myself. Now that my children are older, I've learned, I know now when it's time for me to take a break and when I can walk away and know that they're okay. That when I get back, they're still going to be okay.
Wow.
to parents that are going through this right now, especially dealing with a toddler who may have been diagnosed with autism or another health or birth defect, and then fast forwarding to now as an adult,
Mhm.
Amarion, what would you say are some of the things that parents should be mindful of in the different stages of development and growth?
Um, you have to know their triggers. It took me a while to learn Amarion's triggers. In the beginning, there was no leaving home. Like he stayed home. I told everyone in the beginning, they would invite us places, and I'm like, I can't come, because I can't leave my baby. He doesn't, he had social anxiety. He didn't care to be around people. He went to school, and once he came home, that was it. You know, and so you have to know what triggers them. Amarion does not like to be talked to in a tone louder than what I'm talking to right now, or that upsets him. So I talk to him like this, because if not, it's going to trigger him. You have to understand when they're stimming. Don't interrupt them. Allow them to express themselves in the manner that they choose. And sometimes they don't want to answer questions as to why they do certain things because they're offended. And I found that out from being around him as well as some of his classmates over the years. But I would just say have compassion, have grace, have understanding. If you need to walk away, there's so many times that I've had to walk away, not because I was so angry, but I had to walk away because I didn't want to laugh at something he did that he shouldn't have done because it was inappropriate. Um, because he doesn't have a behavior issues, but he's very outspoken. He's going to say what's on his mind. Even if he does not say it, it's on his face. So yeah, walk away if you have to, and come back until you can control the room, because sometimes you have to be firm and you have to control the things that are going on. I Sometimes I can be a little passive with Amarion. I tell everybody I pick and choose my battles wisely with him. There's always a question about what I allow him to eat. You know, you have to understand where I come from. I came from a child not eating to now he eats. If he wants to eat fast food every day, Lord, I prayed and I said, Lord, I want my child to eat. I wasn't specific about what I wanted him to eat. I just wanted him to eat. So how dare I complain now because he wants to eat fast food for certain meals and he feels like he can't eat lunch at home because it's boring. So you sometimes you gotta extend the rope and let it go and not be so strict about things, you know. And that's
Right.
one of the things that I'll never be strict about is when it comes to his eating. You can help whatever, whenever. I just want you to eat.
Right.
Yes, because remember the time when he couldn't eat and you asked God to please allow him to eat, and now he's able to eat 3 meals a day. He's even asking for the food.
Right. When he's eating one meal, he was like, okay, what am I gonna eat for lunch?
Right.
And before I leave,
You know what? Everybody wants to live in your house. Yeah, everybody wants to live in your house because we all want to eat. But what do we want when we want? There's no judgment. You know, this is the happy place. Okay.
Yeah, we can eat whatever. I can cook something. If he doesn't want it, fine. What do you want? I'm going to eat whatever you want. You know, I just want you to eat. You know,
That
one of
is
my favorite foods is spaghetti. And whenever I cook spaghetti, he's like, nobody eats spaghetti like that. So he'll eat it the next day.
You know what, Felicia? You made a really good point about the power of prayer because you just shared that you prayed to God that he would eat, but you weren't specific.
Right.
Now, people don't realize when you pray and you believe, right? If you're not specific, then hey, this is what you get, this is what God's given you. So I love that food for thought for people to just think about when you're praying. If you wanted to be specific, okay, fine. But in this case, you just said, God, I just want my child to pray. That's
right. That's all I
and
asked.
God granted it. So praise God. Just food for
I
thought.
wanted the feeding tube gone, and I wanted him to eat. The feeding tube was removed because it was a struggle trying to make him stay in bed at night while he was connected to that feeding tube. And I'm like, he wanted to get up and he wanted to walk from his bedroom to the living room, just back and forth, back and forth. And if you were not there, then you had to worry about the risk of him falling and dislodging the feeding tube. It was just a struggle. So I prayed, Lord, I want the feeding tube removed and I want my baby to eat. And it was removed. And eventually he started eating.
And you know what? This is so, because I mean, the Lord is just speaking to me even now as you're speaking. Amarion, I bet that was the point where he was like, God is real because I can eat whatever I want when I want. My mom said, I don't have to eat fruits and veggies and all of that. I can. He's like, God is real. This is a good God, and He gives us good food.
Yes, and he'll tell you if he'll ask if you're cooking, what are you cooking, and if it's something he doesn't like, if he doesn't say ew, then you can see ew on his face, and he walks away really fast. Before he got dizzy, he would run away. If it's something he doesn't like, he's gonna run away and run to his room. And I'm telling you, if I don't give him his way, and I give him his way a lot, he calls my sisters, and they're coming.
Yeah, no filter.
I think it's so much, and you're talking, because people, you think about, oh, my kid is not normal and all these things, but I can only imagine the amazing things that Amarion is teaching you about yourself, about the way he sees the world, about the way that he interacts with people. Like, I would love the freedom to just run away. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I'm gonna keep it real, y'all. Now, y'all don't judge me on this, okay? We listen and we don't judge, okay? No, sometimes, right? I'm like, when you're dealing with people interactions and such and whatnot, I said, sometimes if I act a little abnormal, outside of the norm, people will kind of give you your way. They'll be like, oh, she might not be all, you know what I'm saying? And then it's like, but I don't know if you've ever done that. I'm just like, because sometimes I'm like, they get like the creme de la creme, like eating whatever he wants all the time.
Right.
It's kind of like the easy button sometimes. I would never do that, but I'm just saying, like, the thought has crossed my mind. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, if you like it, I love it. Some people act cuckoo for Cocoa Puff just to get their way. Now, it's not the right way to do it.
So I have to tell you guys too, another thing that Amarion deals with, and yes, he probably knows this, is he doesn't have any hair. He has alopecia. He lost all of his hair at age 5. So that's another thing that he has to deal with. But I was on live the other day on TikTok. He has 1.6 million followers on TikTok. And so we were on live and I heard Alayah, which is my daughter, but I didn't hear her. But today, when we were in the doctor's office, he's sitting on the table and he's sitting like this, and I see hair. And I'm like, wait, Alayah did tell me the other day that he has a mustache. So not only is he having a mustache come in, he's getting a beard as well. And I knew he started having some hair growing on his head, but he has really bad eczema. And I just assumed it was because of some oil that I was putting on his head to treat the eczema. Maybe the steroids was promoting hair growth. But I know I haven't put any on the chin and I haven't put any on his face at all. So here's another prayer that the Lord is answering, because I know my baby desires to have hair. And that's one of the things that he's self-conscious about. That's one of the things that I would love to carry on my shoulder. The weight of him not having hair, because he's dealt with it since he was 5 years old. He went from having a head full of curly hair to no hair at all within a matter of months. So, and he's just a really sweet boy, you know. I can honestly say that Amarion lives his best life. He doesn't have a care in the world.
Wow.
He is a sweetheart. And if I don't know if you guys have ever seen him, but I know, yes, he has, but this is Amarion.
He is amazing. Yes.
That's one of his first videos that went viral on TikTok. I think that one was like 3.9 million.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, he's really hilarious, y'all. Like I said, I have to walk away sometimes not to laugh at some of the things he does and says.
I'm gonna have to go ahead and follow Mr. Amarion.
Yeah, I watch some of
Nurse
the videos.
Yeah.
They're funny and amazing. I love it, and I love that you educate the audience too of things to expect, and yeah, you all definitely have to check it out. So remind the audience and listeners what the page is called on TikTok.
It is I Am Nurse Fee, and that's FE.
I Am Nurse Fee. So definitely check out Amarion and Felicia. I Am Nurse Fee TikTok. It's very inspirational. It's very inspirational. So yes, absolutely. What are some of the activities that you have enrolled Amarion in to kind of keep him, social or if he's interested in? I don't know. How does that work out?
He doesn't have any interest. I have actually tried to take him to an adult program. He doesn't like the word adult daycare, so I had to say it was adult program, because he was like, well, daycare is for kids, and I'm not a kid. But he refuses. He does not have any interest at all. And again, I pick and choose my battles. And if he doesn't want to do something, I don't want to force him to do it, because I feel like if he's there and he's uncomfortable, and one of the things that he's uncomfortable with is about people seeing him without hair. He's afraid that someone is going to bully him, because he was bullied a lot in school. And so I don't force him to do those things. We never leave him alone, because he does require constant assistance. We'll leave him about an hour or two, but not longer than that. But, I really wish he would, go out and be more active and do things, but he just doesn't have interest. But because I want him to have some type of independency and do something other than staying home all day and watching himself on YouTube, I'm in the process of creating a business for him, so he can have something of his own and for him to do, versus just staying home all day long. So that's one of the things that I've been working on. But I really wish he would go out and do some activities. And he also says, wherever we go, he also wants to know, is COVID there? And I'm like, well, Amarion, I can't answer that question. It's airborne and we can't see it. It's a possibility that, we may come in contact with it. But he had caught COVID back in 2022, I believe, because I was working at urgent care And I also had a COVID testing business. And so I've come home twice with COVID, and I'm giving it to my family twice. And so he was like, I don't want COVID. So everywhere we go, is COVID there? It's COVID. Because if it is, he's not going. And I'm like, well, I can't
Wow.
tell you that, Amarion. It's always possible. And he also has this thing where he doesn't leave home after 5 o'clock. If you don't take him out by 5, he's not going. So he has a lot of rules, that I gotta remember.
Was there a reason for him not wanting to go out after 5? Did he state why?
I'm not sure, but he just has this thing. I'm not going anywhere after 5 o'clock.
Wow.
If you want him to go somewhere, it has to be before 5, or he really won't go. He'll go in his room and he'll just stay. And I'm like, okay, well, y'all, we won't be coming because Amarion does not want to go out after 5 o'clock. I don't know if he doesn't care to be out at night in the dark or what it is, but I think he still has some social anxiety because he doesn't like to be around a lot of people or people he doesn't know. Whenever we go somewhere, like if we have something going on with family, his first question is, 1, what time? And if it's after 5 o'clock, he's not going. If it's before 5, he considers it, but he has to know who's going to be there. And if I name somebody he does not know, he's not going. And it's because of his hair. He doesn't want people to see him not having hair. So that's why he wears his baseball cap. But you can still see in the back of his head he doesn't have hair. But I let him know everyone that's going to be there is going to be someone we know and someone that knows you. And you don't have to worry about that. So
Right.
we try to make him comfortable as much as possible.
Wow. Your story is just so amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely very inspirational. And So we're going to transition over to our last minute words, and this will be an opportunity for you to share with the audience and listeners any last minute words that you have. If you have a quote, how they can find you, if there's a business that you want to share, whatever it is that you want to say to the audience. And it'll also be an opportunity for all 4 of us to do the same. So, you're the guest of the hour, so feel free to start first and how people can find you, and especially the TikTok video link that people can find you at so they can check you and Amarion out and your inspiring story.
Okay. You can find myself and Amarion on TikTok under I Am Nurse Fee. On that page, you can find our other social media sites. I'm sorry, I don't know those right off. But Amarion does have a YouTube. He does have Facebook. I have Facebook as well. And all those links are listed in the link on our bio in the TikTok page. Telling another parent that has a child with disabilities, if there's something that you're struggling with, one, find some support. If that support is within within your family. If not, then there are a lot of resources you can reach out to that can help you. A lot of times I'm on Facebook and I'm looking for support groups. Like I'm in a support group locally for kids in the county or adults in the county where we live that is support for parents of children with autism. I'm in support groups for individuals with alopecia. All those things are helpful now, and I wish I had it a long time ago. But you definitely need a village, and I am forever grateful for my village. I get emotional thinking about my village because I could not have done it all these years without my village. Let's see what else. I think that's about it. And also, keep the faith. That's always my saying. Keep the faith. And I tell everyone that I talk to on TikTok, because we've inspired a lot of people with him not eating to now eating. We're in this together. I'm just, you can inbox me. I don't mind asking questions. I get a lot of medical questions, and I tell everyone I can't answer any medical questions because it's not within the scope of my license. But, I can tell you, about a resource or someone you can reach out to that may be able to assist you if I can.
Thank you so much. That is awesome. Cece, would you like to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. Such a pleasure to have you on, Felicia. You said something early on in the interview, and you said that you were chosen for this journey. And so I want to encourage all of you out there, the journey that you're on right now in life, you were chosen for it.
Yes.
And you too can overcome. Enjoy your journey, even though it may seem like the most tumultuous challenge. And you may even ask yourself the question like Felicia did, like, why me? But the question is, why not me? Because you were created for this. You can find me at inspireforpurpose.com. And as I always love to say, love and light and inspire for purpose.
Wow, that was just like Cece and Yessa said, that was truly amazing. Your story's gonna, oh well, it's not going to, I mean, it's still going to, but you've been touching a lot of, lives with your story. So leading into that, I'll say that my favorite quote is life is 10% of what happened to you and 90% of how you react. And I've always used that quote. So I want to tell that to the audiences out there. I mean, you have a choice.
Right.
You either do it negatively or positively. You choose the road you want to take. So that's my take on that. And for me, just stay positive and just enjoy the journey and just keep loving on Amarion, and he's gonna be he's already great, but he's going to be even greater.
Thank you.
So just thank you, and we appreciate you being on here.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, my awesome people. Thank you, all the viewers and listeners. Another amazing, inspiring episode. That's what we do here. Hoy en Dia TV aims to motivate, inspire, enlighten, educate, and entertain you with every episode. And I know we did that today. And it was touching. It was touching. And you get to see the journey. And I really appreciate Felicia for sharing her journey, because she made us cry. She made us laugh. There was so many emotions that were going through it. But that is what life is, right? And similar to what we were talking about in the beginning of the show, is life is how you make of it. That's what Hoy en Dia is a lifestyle-based show, because life is good, bad, was it red, purple, pink, blue, all sorts of color. But at the end of the day, it's about how you see it. Shift that negative mindset. If you have something negative that you're thinking about, how can you see the positive in that? What is the good that you can see out of that? What is the lesson that is helping you grow and learn to be a bigger and better person than what you were the day before, or even just a few minutes before, right? It's always an opportunity. That's what life is. That's how we grow to be bigger and better people. And with that in mind, I want to give a big shout out to the sponsors of Hoy en Dia TVs. We have Collective Wear, we have Divine Beauty, we have Cece, we have Nadine with their businesses. Yes. And I'm about to play some promos. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Sponsored by Collective Wear. Sponsored by Divine Beauty and Accessories. Watch Hoy en Dia TV, Thursday, 7:30 p.m.
Shout out to Nadine's Travel Oasis. Book today. Reach out to Nadine if you have travel plans coming up. She can help you out. Yes, and we are always looking for sponsors. So if you are a business, you want to just promote yourself, reach out to us, hoyendiatv@gmail.com. It's the email scrolling at the bottom of the view. And so reach out, subject line, sponsor. We do have different sponsor packages available that we can offer you. And as for me, people can find me I would say the easiest is go on Google and just type in Yessie Rodriguez, because there's a lot going on between, I have social medias, I have IG and Facebook and LinkedIn and what have you. So you can find me all on there. So there you go. Go on Google and go on to Yessie Rodriguez. And you can also see a little bit about me, what I've been doing. And my favorite quote that I always say, and I always encourage people to refrain from saying the sky is the limit, because guess what? No, the sky is not the limit. And this is why. For those who don't know that the Kármán line exists, what is a Kármán line? So For those who don't know what a Kármán line is an internationally recognized boundary between Earth's atmosphere and what's considered outer space. It is located 100 kilometers, which is equivalent to 62 miles above the sea level. So that technically means that every time you're telling yourself the sky's the limit, you're technically setting a boundary within yourself, a boundary. You are limiting, right? Subconsciously, you're telling yourself you're limiting. With that in mind, I created a quote back in the day, back in 2011, that the sky is never the limit because the galaxies are endless. With that in mind, I thank you for tuning into Hoy en Día TV. Until next time.